It's great that you're part of the aquarist community. This is an amazing hobby that has completely drawn me in, probably for life. The world of underwater ecosystems is fascinating. Being able to observe the harmony of nature, care for delicate creatures, and create beautiful living arrangements brings me immense satisfaction. I hope that aquaristics is more than just a casual interest for you too, that it brings you joy, relaxation, and a chance to escape daily life for a while. If you're just starting out on this journey, I wish you lots of satisfaction and success. And if you're already an experienced aquarist, may your tanks always be full of life and awe-inspiring beauty. What exactly is a Malawi aquarium? A Malawi aquarium is characterized as a biotope aquarium. Therefore, just like in other biotopes, such as a Malawi setup, it is not recommended to keep species from other African lakes, such as Tanganyika or Victoria, together in the same tank. Aquariums with African cichlids are mainly composed of large piles of rocks. Why choose fish from Lake Malawi, Tanganyika, or Victoria? Fish keeping itself is very simple if all important aspects and the fish's requirements are taken into account. Fish from the African rift lakes exhibit incredible behaviors. One can observe fascinating mating rituals, territorial fights, nest building, mouth brooding by females. History of African cichlids. African cichlids, belonging to the Cichlidae family, have a long and fascinating history that dates back thousands of years. African lakes such as Lake Victoria, Lake Malawi, and Lake Tanganyika are home to many species of cichlids that evolved in isolation, leading to a great diversity of forms and behaviors. In particular, Lake Malawi is renowned for its vast number of endemic cichlid species that have evolved within this ecosystem over many generations. The first references to cichlids in literature regarding their breeding, research, and behavior appeared in the 19th century. Since then, interest in them has grown, both among scientists and aquarium hobbyists. In recent decades, thanks to captive breeding, many cichlid species have become widely available to enthusiasts around the world. Why keep African cichlids? Keeping African cichlids has many benefits. Beautiful colors and patterns. African cichlids are known for their remarkable variety of colors and patterns, making them highly attractive to aquarists. Their vivid hues can greatly enhance the appearance of any aquarium. Interesting behavior. Cichlids are famous for their complex and intriguing social behaviors, including nest building, parental care, and territorial disputes. Observing these interactions can be truly fascinating. Species diversity. There are many species of African cichlids, allowing aquarists to create unique themed tanks with a range of species and their specific care requirements. Breeding potential. Many African cichlid species are relatively easy to breed in captivity, which adds another level of engagement for hobbyists. Educational value. Keeping African cichlids offers a great opportunity to learn about ecosystems, animal behavior, and fish biology. Species diversity and their characteristics. African cichlids include many species, each with its own unique traits. Cichlids from Lake Malawi, Pseudotropheus, known for their vibrant colors and aggressive behavior. Many species in this genus are territorial fish, Libidochromis, smaller cichlids, often displaying bright yellow or blue hues. They are less aggressive and more suitable for community tanks. Cichlids from Lake Tanganyika, Julidochromis, fascinating species that often form pairs and are known for nesting in rock crevices. Neolamprologus includes a wide range of species that vary in size and temperament. Some are known for shell-dwelling behavior, which is unique among cichlids. Cichlids from Lake Victoria, Haplochromis, a highly diverse genus with many species that have varying environmental and behavioral needs. These fish are often colorful and very interesting to observe. Each of these genera has specific requirements in terms of habitat, diet, and tank mates, making the keeping of African cichlids an exciting challenge for aquarium enthusiasts. What do we actually need to set up a Malawi aquarium, or one with other African cichlids? First and foremost, the size and capacity of the aquarium are very important, as these fish can grow quite large. An adult male typically reaches between 8 and even 16 centimeters, and in the case of predator species, sizes can exceed 30 centimeters. If you decide to keep African cichlids, you should first determine exactly which species you want to keep, so you can choose an appropriately sized tank. For beginners, smaller and less aggressive species are recommended, such as Labidochromis caeruleus, which usually grows to about 8 to 10 centimeters and is generally peaceful. The size of the tank is especially important when choosing the species to introduce into your Malawi aquarium. It's worth emphasizing that water volume is not as crucial as the surface area of the tank, that is, the length and width, because the height of the aquarium is not particularly significant for these fish. Tank size requirements will, of course, vary depending on the species. The larger the aquarium, the greater the selection of suitable fish for your tank. It's understandable that not everyone can accommodate a 2-meter or larger aquarium in their home. Nevertheless, it's still essential to meet at least the minimum requirements for Malawi cichlids. If you want a Malawi aquarium, it should have a minimum volume of 200 liters to function well over the long term. During spawning, males can become extremely aggressive. For this reason, the recommended minimum size for a Malawi Mbuna tank is around 200 liters, and, as mentioned before, the length and width of the aquarium are more important than its height. The tank should be at least 120 centimeters long and 40 centimeters wide. With this size, your options will be more limited to smaller, less aggressive Mbuna species. The larger the tank, the more flexibility you have, including keeping larger and more aggressive species. It's also important to remember that these species are often kept in harems, typically 2 males for every 6 females. A common practice is to add additional fish to help disperse aggression. For example, you can keep 1 male and 1 female of a different species, or just 1 male of another species. It's crucial, however, to choose fish with compatible diets, but more on that later. Aquascaping. Now that we have an aquarium matched to the fish we have chosen, what's next? We need to find a place to set it up. It's important to make sure the stand or cabinet where the tank will sit is level and stable. The aquarium itself will be quite heavy, considering that the minimum tank size for African cichlids is 200 liters, and 1 liter of water equals 1 kilogram, plus the weight of the glass. This creates a significant load. Next, it's worth considering where exactly our fish come from and what conditions their wild counterparts live in. If possible, try to recreate those natural conditions. To help with this, it's a good idea to watch a few underwater diving videos from Lake Malawi, Tanganyika, or Victoria. Based on my own experience, the best rocks for recreating a natural habitat and for building a beautiful aquascape include sandstone, slate, greywacke, and serpentinite. When it comes to the substrate, it may seem like a minor detail, but it's actually quite important for African cichlids. These fish use sand to clean their gills. If we use river gravel or larger pebbles as substrate, we take away their ability to naturally rid themselves of parasites and disrupt behaviors such as digging spawning pits in the sand. My favorite stage, aquascaping the aquarium. Let's get to work. If you've already placed your aquarium on a level, stable stand, and you're ready to begin aquascaping, one important step is to place a leveling mat under the aquarium. This is a foam mat, often around 5 millimeters thick, which helps stabilize the aquarium and protects the bottom from cracking in case a grain of sand gets trapped between the glass and the stand, or if the stand itself is uneven. Additionally, you can place the same foam at the bottom of the aquarium to protect it from scratches caused by the sand or rocks. For larger rocks, you can place a grid or a thicker foam layer underneath them. Now that your aquarium is secured, you can begin arranging your aquascape. It's best to start by placing the larger rocks first, then add your substrate, and follow by placing smaller rocks that will enrich the overall appearance of the tank. Small details, like gently scattered stones sized between 2 to 4 centimeters, will enhance the final look beautifully. Below, I'm sharing a few of my aquariums that I've created over the years. Once everything is set up, slowly fill the tank with water. Make sure to do this carefully to avoid disturbing the aquascape. We have everything ready. Let's prepare the water now. It's important to get water tests for pH, KH, and GH, as these are crucial for keeping Malawi, Tanganyika, or Victoria cichlids. Below, you'll see a table of the water parameters for these 3 lakes, which you should match to the parameters of your tap water. The advantage is that when we buy fish from breeders, they are already adapted or born in our conditions. However, for wild-caught fish, it's important to ensure the water parameters are as close as possible to their natural habitat. Water parameters in Lake Malawi. Water hardness, 4 to 6 DGH carbonate hardness, KH, 6 to 8 DKH pH, around 7.5. Water parameters in Lake Tanganyika. pH 8.6 to 9.2. General hardness, GH 7 to 11. DGH carbonate hardness, KH 16 to 18 and KLH. Water parameters in Lake Victoria. Water is quite soft to moderately hard, 2 to 8 DGH alkaline, pH from 6.9 to 9.0. These are the conditions you should recreate in your tank. Fish usually tolerate temperature fluctuations quite well, as the temperature in the lake can vary by several degrees during the day. This is due to the large, easily heated surface area. However, they do not tolerate fluctuations in hardness or alkalinity as well. As for plants in Lake Malawi, over the years I've experimented in this direction, and I must admit, I often failed. Some plants were uprooted, some were eaten, and others simply died due to the water parameters. Currently, in my aquarium, there are only algae. However, over the years, I've found a few plant species that definitely work well, enrich the aquascape with beautiful greenery, and, as I've observed, provide excellent hiding spots for fry and calm the adult fish. Below are the species I've prepared for you. What is tank cycling? How does the nitrogen cycle work in an aquarium? For the first 2 weeks, your aquarium needs to stabilize. You've added water, turned on the filters, and introduced nitrifying bacteria. What's next? The transformations occurring in the aquarium water are referred to as tank maturation. These terms are directly related to the nitrogen cycle. It's a complex biological process that involves the transformation of nitrogen, an element that takes on various forms in the aquarium, each with different levels of toxicity to the fauna. The nitrogen cycle can be divided into 3 stages. Stage 1, the start of the cycle when the first poison, ammonia, NH3, appears. This is the moment when nitrogen in a new aquarium is present, either in the form of ammonium, NH4, if the water is acidic, or ammonia, NH3, if the water is alkaline, pH above 7. In biotope aquariums like those of Malawi, Tanganyika, or Victoria, ammonium, NH4, is not harmful to the fauna. However, ammonia, NH3, is a toxic substance that causes health issues and even fish deaths. Its sources include fish waste, leftover food, and decaying plant matter. Stage 2. The transformation of the first poison into the second one. Nitrites, NO2. Ammonia disappears, but nitrites, NO2, appear. In the aquarium, useful colonies of aerobic bacteria will develop. These bacteria eliminate ammonia, NH3, by oxidizing it. The byproduct of this process is the equally toxic nitrites, NO2, which become our second poison. Stage 3. The goal of the cycle, which is the transformation of the second poison into safe nitrates, NO3. In the aquarium, additional beneficial bacteria begin to appear, which, like in the previous stage, consume nitrites and oxidize them into safe nitrates, NO3. Nitrates are harmless to the fauna in the aquarium, as long as their concentration does not become too high. This is why water changes are so important in aquariums. If everything is ready, and we have waited the appropriate amount of time, and the nitrogen cycle is nearly complete, we can conduct water tests. If the results are satisfactory, we can introduce our fish. How to introduce fish to the aquarium? If we've purchased fish that are in a bag, place the bag on the water surface to allow the temperature to equalize. Once the water temperature in the bag matches the temperature in our aquarium, we can transfer the fish to a separate container where we will gradually add water from our aquarium to balance the pH, KH, and GH parameters. When the water in the container has mixed with the water from the bag in a 50-50 ratio, we can slowly release the fish into the aquarium. This should be done carefully to avoid stressing the fish. Remember, never pour the water from the bag or any other container in which the fish arrived into your aquarium. We don't know what conditions the fish were kept in previously or whether they could be carrying diseases. If you notice that a fish is behaving oddly before introducing it to the aquarium, use quarantine. It's a good idea to have a separate tank where you can observe the fish and potentially treat it if needed. Stocking the aquarium. Most beginner Malawi fish keepers would love to have the most colorful aquarium with as many different species as possible. Here, the most common mistake occurs, as it is almost always better to house a single species in larger groups than to have as many species in smaller groups, or even worse, just in pairs. For instance, Aquarists species live in harems, and it's essential to keep several females with one male. When stocking a Malawi aquarium, consider the following points. Combining mbuna with others, such as Haplochromis and Aquarists, is not the most recommended choice. Mbuna are much more aggressive than the other two groups. Additionally, mbuna live in a different environment from Haplochromis and Aquarists, so they require different aquarium setups. Most mbuna species live in rocky environments and need a lot of stones in the aquarium. On the other hand, most Haplochromis and Aquarists species live in intermediate and sandy environments, requiring an aquarium with fewer rocks and enough space to swim. Another reason not to combine these groups is that mbuna are primarily herbivores, while Haplochromis and Aquarists are mainly carnivores. Combining Haplochromis and Aquarists is quite common. In terms of aggression, these two groups are very similar, and they have similar aquarium setup and dietary requirements. Particularly cautious care must be taken when pairing with Haplochromis, as they are predators feeding on smaller fish. Larger predators like Haplochromis should not be housed near mbuna, as the latter do not grow large enough to avoid becoming their prey. In some cases, certain combinations of mbuna with Haplochromis and Aquarists are possible, but here we need to be much more careful when selecting the right combination of fish with similar requirements. How many species of cichlids are there and which ones? Below you will find example fish setups for mbuna cichlids with the quantities matched to a specific aquarium size and volume. Heating. We have already selected the fish species, determined the aquarium size, chosen rocks for decoration, and selected the substrate. What's next? The next step is choosing the heating and filtration. When it comes to heaters for an aquarium with African cichlids, the heater's power must correspond to the net volume of the aquarium. For example, if our aquarium, including decoration and substrate, has a capacity of 200 liters, we need a 200-watt heater. The temperature in the aquarium should never drop below 24 degrees Celsius or exceed 29 degrees Celsius. A temperature that is too low reduces the fish's metabolism, making it harder for them to digest food, increasing susceptibility to disease, and causing stress. On the other hand, at a high temperature, metabolism increases, along with the aggression of the fish. Filtration. Regarding filtration for African cichlids, it needs to be ultra efficient if we want to maintain healthy and well-colored fish. There are many types of filtration, but the most common are external canister filters. The most important parameter to consider when choosing a filter is the water flow rate in liters per hour. Ideally, the filter should be able to filter the entire volume of the aquarium 5 to 10 times per hour. For example, if we have a 200-liter aquarium, the best choice would be filters with a flow rate of 800 to 1000 liters per hour. This type of filter will provide proper biological and mechanical filtration and sufficient water flow in the aquarium to collect food scraps or waste from the bottom. Ceramic, sponge, or K1 media. The better the filtration, the more fish we can keep in the aquarium, and the better water quality we provide for our inhabitants. Once we have all the above elements, we move on to selecting filtration media. Over the years, I have tried different types of filtration and matched the appropriate media to them. From years of experience, I can confirm that the best results come from using sponge media and highly effective biological filtration media, such as K1, which is used for filtration in drinking water systems. Below, I present a table where you will find the parameters and effectiveness of various filtration media. The next step is choosing the lighting. Since I am personally fascinated by playing with light, I have tested many available lighting models for aquariums. When it comes to this, don't be afraid to experiment. Below, I present various lighting setup schemes that will allow you to achieve different effects and bring out the best colors of your fish. An additional lighting option for an aquarium with African cichlids is plant lamps. I mention this because I received many inquiries about how I managed to recreate such natural conditions in which the highly desired green algae often grows on the rocks. Well, there are two options. Either you turn on typical aquarium lighting for 20 hours a day, which I definitely do not recommend, or you add a plant lamp to the aquarium. The proper light spectrum will ensure that within 1 or 2 weeks, your rocks will be covered with a beautiful green lawn and promotes the growth of green algae. What do fish feel? Do fish feel pain? Until recently, it was believed that since fish do not have grey matter in their brains, which forms the neocortex, they cannot have cognitive abilities. However, many more detailed studies have confirmed that in fish, the brain layers responsible for sensing, emotions, and thinking are located deeper, below the white matter, unlike other vertebrates, where such layers are found on the surface. Fish definitely think and can learn. Fish have been on Earth much longer than we have. They had time to evolve and perfectly adapt to their environment. From a biological perspective, it is quite obvious that they must have learned to think and use cognitive functions. The only issue is that it is difficult for humans to imagine what a fish feels or the challenges it faces. There are countless challenges, as fish live in a very complex three-dimensional environment. They must actively search for food, deal with very complex environmental pressures, such as predators, in order to survive. That's why they are cognitively advanced and capable of much more than we realize. Lateral line, which runs along the body. Thanks to it, fish can very precisely sense what is happening around them and move in a school in such a coordinated way because they can detect even micro changes and adapt to them. In most species, the lateral line is well developed and distinct, called a full lateral line. It usually runs at the level of the myotomes, horizontal partitions separating the trunk muscles, myotomes, and is slightly, less often strongly, curved toward the belly. In some fish, it is visible only on the first few scales just behind the head, and in many fish, it is completely absent. The scales pierced with holes are often differently colored from the rest of the body. In some fish, the scales of the lateral line transform into large dermal bony shields, creating a sharp ridge along the sides of the body. The course of the lateral line can vary greatly. Sometimes it is straight, more often arcuate straight, and sometimes wavy. Its pattern in different species undergoes characteristic modifications and is considered a taxonomic constant. In some fish, more than one lateral line is present, sometimes up to 5 on one side of the body, e.g., the family Pteropodontidae. In fish that do not have a lateral line along the sides, sensory pores are usually more numerous on the head. Although until recently, scientists questioned the idea that fish feel pain, it is now definitely known that they do. In her book, Do Fish Feel Pain?, biologist Victoria Braithwaite writes, "There is as much evidence that fish feel pain and suffering as there is for these sensations in birds and mammals. Although fish do not scream in pain, their behavior indicates suffering. Like higher vertebrates, they have neurotransmitters such as endorphins, which alleviate suffering. The only reason their nervous system produces these natural painkillers is to ease pain." How to care for African cichlids? The main problem faced by aquarium hobbyists choosing the biotope of Lakes Malawi, Tanganyika, or Victoria is aggression. Over years of observation, I have noticed that not only poor diet, but also aggression contributes to fish diseases, such as bloat. Malawi bloat is undoubtedly the most common disease affecting cichlids from the Great African Rift Lakes, Malawi and Tanganyika. Despite its widespread awareness, little is known about the specific mechanisms behind this condition. Malawi bloat also affects fish from Lake Victoria, especially those from Lake Tanganyika. For many African cichlid species, this disease is fatal. Fish with a diet primarily composed of plant matter are most at risk. This is because the disease involves a nutritional disorder characterized by a bloated stomach and a water-filled gastrointestinal tract. This disorder seems to occur when there is an increased intake of calorie-rich foods. Increased thirst and subsequent drinking appear to worsen the symptoms associated with a stomach filled with water. The first symptom is usually loss of appetite. Other signs appear if treatment is not started in time. Subsequent symptoms include the mentioned abnormal abdominal swelling, hence the bloating, increased breathing rate, lethargy, white, stringy feces, and the fish resting at the bottom of the tank or staying near the surface. Red marks around the anus or skin ulcers, as well as protruding scales, may also be visible. The main symptoms become evident in the later stages of the disease, so proper observation of the fish is crucial to initiate treatment early. The final effects of the disease are extensive damage to the liver, kidneys, and swim bladder. Therefore, even with treatment, starting action too late significantly reduces the chances of recovery. After the appearance of secondary symptoms, death typically occurs within 24 to 72 hours, although sometimes the fish may survive for a bit longer than a week. Some believe that bloat has a bacterial origin, while others think it is caused by a parasite. Despite the lack of consensus, most researchers support the view that the cause of bloating is a parasite, a protozoan. It resides in the intestines of healthy fish and begins to multiply under harmful conditions, such as stress. In larger numbers, the parasite causes a blockage in the digestive tract, leading to loss of appetite in the fish. As the parasite grows in number, it becomes highly invasive, moving outside the intestine, perforating its walls and causing the fish to bloat. The organ damage eventually leads to the death of the fish. It is not definitively established whether the disease is contagious. However, practical experience suggests that bloat often results in more than one fish dying in the tank, usually with some time intervals between deaths. Affected fish, therefore, exist in different stages of the disease. Subscribe to the channel. One way to avoid this disease is to properly select species based on their aggression levels, or adjust them depending on the situation. It is important to remember to service the aquarium at least once a month. Fish waste in any tank deteriorates water quality, and over time, the water becomes sterile. Attention should also be paid to the aggression of dominant males. Over time, the fish we bought at 3 to 4 centimeters will reach their full size. For example, a male Metriaclima maison reef that reaches 10 to 12 centimeters can dominate an entire 150 centimeter tank, and during breeding it can kill other fish, including females. In the case of such males, it's a good idea to add another male to the harem to provide competition for our alpha male. Another good method is to rearrange the tank layout. Moving a few stones can completely reduce aggression. As for equipment maintenance, during water changes, it is important to rinse any media with aquarium water only. Additionally, keep in mind that evaporating water settles on the lighting, which affects the visibility in the aquarium. A good habit is also to vacuum the sand, which improves water clarity. One way to reduce aggression in the aquarium is to add plants. From experience, I know this calms the fish, and the incubating females have a place to hide and are more willing to release fry there. Plants that work best in aquariums with African cichlids include anubias, hornwort, vallisneria, and cryptocoryne. Other plants are often eaten. The presence of plants in the aquarium will certainly improve water quality and help remove toxins. I hope this material was useful to you. See you soon.